Hello, brothers and sisters. Today is Saturday in the second week of Lent 2024. Thank you for joining me, Reverend Father Anthony Mario Ozele of the Catholic Diocese of Warri in Nigeria. Today's liturgical readings are from the prophet Micah, chapter 7, verses 14 to 15, and verses 18 to 20, and Luke chapter 15, from verse 1 to verse 3, and from verse 11 to verse 32. Our theme for today's reflection is the lavish God who is waiting for you. The lavish God who is waiting for you. Luke chapter 15 opens on a stage of conflict. The religious leaders were grumbling and complaining that Jesus was keeping the company of tax collectors and sinners who themselves were gathering around to listen to Jesus preach and teach. So in response, Jesus tells three stories about the lost being found. The first is about a lost coin that a woman searches for and eventually finds it. The second is about a shepherd who leaves his flock to go in search of the one that got lost. He finds it, he brings it home. And then now he tells the classic, the all-time classic, about the joy of the returning son, the returning lost son. And the implications of this parable is very clear. That God seeks out those who are lost, and He celebrates when He gets them back on track. Maybe you also have gotten a little bit off track. Maybe you have gotten caught up in some things that have led you farther away from God than you could ever have imagined. Maybe you've got stuck with an attitude or behavior that is not very healthy. Today's gospel text, my dear friend, is a reminder that it's okay. It's okay to come back to God, especially during this season of Lent. There's no need for guilty trips. No need, except to just return to our Father's house. In this parable of the prodigal son, the younger boy goes to his father and demands an inheritance. Now, what kind of son does that? To ask for your father's inheritance while he's still alive. That is very insulting. It's like saying to your parent, as far as I'm concerned, you're already dead. Well, what could the father have done? The father actually was under no obligation to listen to what his son had to say or to indulge his son. There were spelled out rules and regulations for the sharing of inheritance. But this father indulges his son all the same. Now take note, he does not try to control, he does not try to manipulate, he does not try to make his son feel guilty. He doesn't even threaten him by saying, well, if you walk out the door of this home, then I have nothing ever to do with you again. He doesn't do that. He lets his son go. Go and make his own mistakes. The same way that God gives us the freedom to make bad choices and to learn from them. It's important to remember that we cannot blame God for the choices we have made to follow the path of our own free will. We just cannot do that. Well, this story is familiar with many of us, if not all of us, who are listening to this broadcast. The younger son leaves home goes to a distant country, goes to a Gentile territory, which indicates a rejection of his own people and his own cultures and his own religious upbringing. And before long, he blows his entire inheritance. You know, most people assume that the word prodigal means one who goes away and returns. But it actually means spending lavishly or extravagantly. So this younger son spends lavishly on a life of dissipation. Jesus doesn't give us the particulars, but we can surmise that it was a life of debauchery. And when his pockets become empty, he gives up himself to work on a pig's farm, which for a Jewish person, that was sinking to the bottom of the barrel. One day, Jesus said he came to himself. Having hit the bottom of the barrel, he suddenly became self-aware. The scales, as it were, fell off his eyes. You know, dear brothers and sisters, there are some people who would rather that this young man will continue to suffer for a long time for his bad decisions. There are some persons who are unforgiving and would rather that he continue to slave away in a distant country. Unfortunately, many of such people are religious people. And these are the kind of people that grumbled about Jesus' association with tax collectors and sinners. And that is probably one of the reasons why Jesus told this parable. Sometimes it's necessary for people to hit the bottom of the barrel so that they can come to self-awareness and return. But when they make such decision to return, we have an obligation to welcome them back, to receive them with the love and the compassion of God. And this is what the Father does. While the boy was still far away from home, the father saw him in the distance, ran to his son, hugged him, kissed him right there on the road so that everybody could see that he had been welcomed back before the villagers would start stigmatizing him and ostracizing him. And the father gives him gifts, gives him clothing, gifts that symbolize authority, honor, and restoration of privilege as a son, and he orders a feast. As far as the father was concerned, the cost was irrelevant. What was important to him was restoring his relationship with his lost son. But the older brother was offended and angry. It needs to be said that the older brother is a good son. He never disobeyed his father, never brought shame and disgrace and embarrassment to the family. He has done everything right, but he misrepresented and he misunderstood the love of his father. He was a brother, he was not yet a father. Probably someday when he becomes a father, he will understand the importance of restoring relationships. There are many people today who judge too quickly. They do not have the patience of putting up with those who have made mistakes. We all make mistakes. And the best thing we can do for one another is to give each other a second chance. This loving father, this extravagant father gave his son a second chance. The older brother was not willing to give his brother another chance. My dear friends, we can learn so much from this. And one of the lessons we can learn is that God does not always get in the way of our sinful desires. God does not always stand in the way of our wrong choices because He has given us free will. God is a gentleman. He does not always prevent us from desiring those things that are not good for us. No matter what, we still have our free will, and you are free to want and to pursue whatever comes to your mind and your heart. It's up to you to decide what you will do with your free will. Secondly, sometimes we want the things that we cannot handle. We want things that we are not prepared to handle. This young man went and squandered his wealth. Wealth was given to him, but he was not prepared to handle it. It was overwhelming for him. There are some blessings that believers ask for. They are overwhelming for them. Some people come to fame. Fame overwhelms them, and they self-destruct on fame. Some people ask for wealth. It overwhelms them. Wealth becomes their God. Thirdly, not everyone is happy about your spiritual growth. In this parable, the Pharisees represent the older brother. They were the teachers of the law. They were very faithful Jews. They kept the letter of the law. In their eyes, everyone who is not like them has no hope of salvation. They were not happy to see the tax collectors and the sinners making spiritual progress. They took offense at it. And there are still people like that in our society and our world today. They are not happy when they see you making progress. They are not happy when they see you turn a new leaf and begin to walk down the path of righteousness and salvation. But all that doesn't matter. What matters is to return to God. Once the Father has received you, your new life is ready to blossom. Finally, God is always looking. He's always waiting. He's always watching for us to return home. And my dear friends, this season of Lent is such a wonderful time to return to our Father's house. Scripture says, all we like sheep have gone astray. We too have strayed like the prodigal son. But we have an extravagant God and Father who is waiting to take us back. So why wait? Let's hurry. Let's go back to the Father. Let's return to our Father's house through the sacrament of reconciliation in this season of Lent and of the penances that we can all embark on. The Father loves you and is waiting for you. Hurry back. God bless you as you do so.